We're getting ready to wire up our front-end Blazor project to our API. In this lesson, we're going to be getting all of our models set up and clean up some of the boilerplate code so we're ready for our next lessons. Now, this video is part of a series dedicated to developing C# applications on Linux. Along the way, we're getting a better knowledge of how Linux works and how to make our apps truly cross-platform. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel to stay informed of new episodes as they come out. And if you're looking for even more .NET, SQL, and API training, go to iamtimcorey.com. All right, let's go over to our Linux machine. If you want the source code from today's lesson, then all you need to do is look in the description. You'll find it there. You can download it. Okay, we have our project open, and in the API, we have our ticket model, which is going to be the model for getting our tickets, etc. And then in program, we left these two records right here for inserting and updating the records, or updating, well, the ticket records, yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to our web project, and we're going to create a new folder called models. And in here, we're going to create models for all three of these things. Now, one of the things you may say is, Tim, why don't you just link to that project or have a shared project they can both pull from? And the reason why is because you're doing dry wrong. You're trying to not repeat yourselves when it comes to models, but these models are going to change independently of each other because they have different purposes, even though they have the same content. So let me show you an example here. So let's create a file. We're going to call this the ticket insert model.cs. Now, just so you know, if you wanted to create the file here using the .NET way where you already get the namespace, by the way, we have to say namespace and then say this is tinyticket.web.models. And then you can say public class ticket insert model, like so. And there you go. That's kind of the boilerplate of what you get. But if you want to do that yourself, like without having to type that, well, what you can do, since they kind of killed this, the C# project section, and it's all just now in these files, the new doesn't create for you a new C# file. But if you do Control-Shift-P, you can say .NET new file like this. And then we'll say, hey, where you want to put that, you can put in the web, and then say I want a class, and I want to call this the ticket update model, like so. And notice it creates it down here, not in models. Let's move that up. Yes, I want to move that. And let's look at that. And it add a using system, which you don't need. And we have to change the namespace to be .models now, since we're in the models folder. But there you go. So you could do that, and if it's more complicated, if we do Control-Shift-P, notice that the new files is not just classes. Let's go web here. We can do editor config and JSON or global.json file and interface, a bunch of different things. Razor page, Razor component that might be more valuable to create, but the reality is, especially for class files, just do new here and then type it out. Namespace. And the thing is, this is a good time to kind of refresh your brain, because if you don't know how to do that, if that's not, in your defaults as, yeah, this is just simple stuff, then maybe you haven't done enough and you need to refresh your brain a little bit on how to do that, because understanding the foundation of how a class is built is pretty important. And again, this is only a few lines of C# code. It's something you should probably know. And again, we had to modify this one anyway because it wasn't correct for where it was, and having that default using statement, which you don't need, etc. Okay, so back to the question of why can't I just point to the same location? Well, if we look here at, where is it? Program.cs, we have the insert record. Let's just grab this whole thing, and we're going to put it over here like so. And this is, let's not mouse over it. This is what we're going to be basically copying here. So we're going to say prop and tab. We're going to say string, and we'll say ticket title, and we're going to mark this as required, okay, which adds that using directive, and min length of 1. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for this. Let's just get it done. So let's copy this because it's maybe a little easier. And I don't need a space in between. I'm going to put the ticket description here. And then we'll do one more. I'll type this one out, prop. And it's going to be an int of priority. And we'll mark this as whoops. There we go. Range, and that's 1 to 5. Okay, so now you kind of modified, or you kind of mirrored this record with a class instead. Well, why? Because we already have this record. We can just reuse this record, right? Well, for the API, that's a read-only thing, and records are read-only. But for our front end, we're going to modify this one string at a time. So you might type in the title and then hit tab to go to the next field. Well, it's going to modify the title, which if it's a read-only thing, that's more problematic. You can do it, but it's messier how you do it. And also you create all these workarounds to try and make this record work on both systems, and it doesn't have to be that way. So instead, actually, let's put a space there. We're going to create a model here in our front end that's different than the API model, and that's okay. All right, so that's our insert model. What we're going to do is the same thing. Let's save that. We're going to come over to our program.cs again and grab our update record. Let's grab that and go to our update model. And again, we'll just paste that in. We're going to have, this is we don't need to have a required on this. So ID, we don't have to require this because we're not actually changing this. We're going to make it read-only. So we're not going to worry about modifying it. We could make it a private set. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I'm debating here because we could make this a private set. So what this would do is it essentially get read-only. You can only modify this when you first create the model or when you put it through the constructor. Otherwise, it's read-only. I don't think you go that far, but you could. But we don't need this. And again, this is where the record and the model will be different because it has a different purpose and a different use case. In the API, well, we're making sure that the data being sent to the API is valid. And so we're checking, did you send a valid value through? In the front end, we're not modifying this. This is coming from a GET call. So we already have this ID. We're just not allowing it to be modified. Therefore, there's no reason to check to make sure it's in a valid range because we know it is because it came from the database. So a different purpose gets a different value. All right. So we have a string and we'll say ticket title. And in fact, we should probably just come over here and grab these two because that's what we're going to have. Okay, one of the things to note is if I hit Control Dot here, add the using directive. When you copy and paste in VS Code, it doesn't automatically bring in the using directives that are needed. Whereas in Visual Studio, I believe it's just by default anymore, but there was at one point a setting to do that. But just note that's what's happening. Okay, prop, date time, it's a nullable date time, and this is date completed. And then we're going to have a range, okay? So we're going to have our priority again. All right, let me grab the priority. And then let's go ahead and paste that over here, like so. So there's our range again for our model. Cool. We want to make sure that when we look at these things that we just kind of do a once over to make sure that, there's nothing, I guess, problematic here. I think one of the things we need to think about is we have these squigglies. Well, first let's get rid of the record. We don't need that anymore. So let's do this. We could mark it as required, but I think for filling out a field, empty string is probably a good call here. So we'll we'll do that, and we'll also do this over here in our insert model. Like so, that just starts us off with a value. Yes, just so you know, this is a tiny, but you should know about it, performance hit. Because what happens is this creates a string, but when you put a new string in there, it's going to create another new string. So we actually create 2 new strings when we fill this in. So strings aren't cheap. You know, if you create millions of them, you're going to bog down your application. This is not a big deal, but it's important that you know about it so that you're thinking about that in terms of, am I doing this once? Not a big deal. Am I doing this thousands of times? That's a big deal. So there's a difference there. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to worry about for these 2. Let's go ahead and hit save on both of these. I could hit Control-Shift-S as well. We need one more, and that's the ticket model. We need to make sure that the ticket model looks right. I don't know that we need to modify anything here because of the fact that this is coming from a database or from the API. So we don't have to say require. We don't have to say, hey, this is, whatever. This is coming from the API. Therefore, we can just say, yep, that's the data. And there it comes. So, one more thing, because it did create that. We can get rid of, actually, this is from the API service, which we actually can get rid of it anyway. But this is the API service model. Let's just bring it over here into this model. So new file, and we're going to call this the ticket model.cs and paste it in. But notice the namespace is wrong. So we say web.models, like so. So now we have, again, yes, it's a copy paste. That's not a violation of dry. We need to think beyond just, it looks the same, therefore it must be the same for dry. Whoops. There we go. So with that, we've modified or added these 3 models we can now use in our front end for those operations. Let's close all of these. And I do want to look at this project. We go into the components. We have the pages. We have counter. We don't need the counter. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Move the trash. And we have the weather. We don't need that. Move the trash. And then we do even have a question of, do we need a home page? Because is the tickets the home page? Like if we go right to the tickets, or do we have the tickets be in the menu? And I think what I'm going to do is I am going to leave the home page alone, except to say the developing C# on Linux. I don't know why I'm getting the token range failed there. That's interesting. Developing C# on Linux app. And then we're going to say, this is our ticket demo app. Like so. Let's not worry about that for now. We're going to hit save on this. And what we're going to do is create a new page for tickets. We'll do that in the next video. But in the meantime, we'll need to look at our nav menu. Our nav menu right now, we have, let's bring us over. We have home, counter, and weather. We don't need weather and counter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this alone, the counter alone. We will change that over to be the tickets instead. So I like a copy paste, and I'm not copying this one because we do have the match nav link match.all. So that's like the default link. So we'll leave this alone, and we'll modify this to say tickets. I'm not going to do it yet because I don't have a tickets page for it. But I'm going to save that. So then just know this link's now going to be broken. And if we come over here and look at the rest of our app, I don't believe we have anything else in here we need to get rid of. This is why you might not want to use, I bet there is, right here, weather service. Weather API client, we do have a weather API client. We get rid of that. So get rid of that. And then back where we were in program.cs, we get rid of that HTTP client. We'll add a different one of our own once we have it. So actually, that might be the next video. We'll see. But this is why using the template with all the default stuff or the sample stuff isn't the greatest, because you have to start ripping things out. And one of the things you'll find is when you rip things out, you have bugs because you don't get everything. Maybe you didn't put maybe there's something in here that we missed, or something somewhere else that you missed. And that very well could be true. We already have a whole bunch of CSS that probably isn't all needed anymore, but I don't know what is and what isn't. I'm not going to touch it. Now, if this were a going to production app, I absolutely would, although I'd probably do a file new project and start from no sample data and start there instead of what we did. But I wanted to have that sample project going. Okay, so I think this should be it. So what we can do is we can hit our F5. Okay, not F5. Run debug. There we go. So I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? My keyboard may be I had to hit function F5. That's why. Okay, so wait for us to compile and to run. Yes, go ahead anyway. It's going to ask for our token. We copy this. We go back over to this and we paste it in, log in. There we go, web front end, make sure it still works. Yes, we know it's unsecure. Developer on C# apps on Linux. Okay, this is our ticket demo. Counter doesn't work right now. That's okay. At 404, that's okay. But we now have the foundation ready for us to bring in a new ticket page. Okay, so we're all set there. I'll give you the source code down in the description. Next video, what we'll do is we'll probably work on the bring in an API client for the tickets, so you can do all the ticket interactions. And we'll probably do that all at once instead of trying to break it out into the different, get, post, put, patch, delete, because I think it's getting quick enough. I'm trying to break this up in a small chunk, but at the same time, keep them logically together. All right. Thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.